Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the May 3rd meeting for the Village of Wilmette Appearance Review Commission. Mr. Sievertson, could you please call the roll, please?
Yes, not Andrick. And please, for the commissioners, I had to mute everyone, so if you could take yourself off mute.
Here. Did you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Richard Brill is absent. I think Devin's just coming on. Let me wait for her.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no problem. We're just doing roll. So mark you down. Doug Johnson.
Here.
Mason Miller.
Here.
Jeffrey Saad, I believe is absent, and Charles Smith.
Present. Thank you. So this meeting is being conducted remotely via Microsoft Teams. For those watching this video in the future, the state of Illinois is currently under a stay-at-home order issued by Governor Pritzker due to the coronavirus global pandemic. As a result, all in-person governmental meetings have been canceled. However, the Open Meetings Act now permits electronic meetings of governmental bodies, and this evening we're conducting our business in compliance with the state law. As usual, this meeting is being broadcast live on our local cable access channel 6. It is also being broadcast on the internet on YouTube Live. To participate in the meeting, you can join through Microsoft Teams. Visit the Village website at www.wilmette.com and find the calendar event for the Appearance Review Commission meeting. There is a link for you to join the meeting. Also submit your comments through YouTube Live. A member of the Village staff will read your comment to the Appearance Review Commission. All comments to the Appearance Review Commission will be recorded in the meeting minutes, as we typically do. For our meeting guests joining by Teams, when you're not speaking, please keep your device muted, as we've stated, to minimize disruption of the proceedings, and your video turned off so that the board members can see them. The cases we'll hear this evening will be heard in the order set forth on the published agenda. We will have a call to order, which we've done. We'll approve our minutes from our last meeting in April. We will review a consent agenda. We have 3 items on that. And then we have 2 cases that we'll hear, discuss, and adjudicate on this evening. We'll also ask for public comments. So after the presentation of the approval of the minutes, I'd like to do the consent agenda. And then when you were asked to present your case, please state your name and an address for the record, and then we will be able to hear the case. So if, Lucas, if you could call for, actually, I'd like to ask the commissioners if there is a motion to approve the minutes from the April 5th meeting, 2021.
I'm just gonna let Richard in. He's in the lobby.
Okay. So, you want to officially have Richard join the meeting?
Yeah, but as well. Richard, are you there?
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry for being late. I've been struggling to get on Microsoft Teams after 15 minutes, and I finally did it through the link you sent us through email.
Oh, great. Okay. We were just getting ready to do a motion for the minutes.
Okay.
So is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any comments or questions regarding the minutes? Hearing none, Lucas, could you please call a roll for approval?
Not Andrick.
Approved.
Richard Brill.
Here.
Devin Castellano.
Here.
Doug Johnson.
We're approving minutes, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, then yes is my vote.
Mason Miller,
Yes.
and Charles Smith.
Yes, approved. Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much. Lucas, we have a 3-item consent agenda. Could you please present that to the commission?
Sure. The 3 cases are for 3534 Lake Avenue for the Wilmette Market, 1107 Greenleaf Avenue for Cashin Brothers, and 535 Green Bay Road for Backyard Barbecue. The first case for Wilmette Market is a new wall sign to replace the existing wall sign. It will be larger in size. The other cases for Cashin Brothers and Backyard Barbecue are essentially recovering or refacing existing signs. They're all conforming.
And I see that in the distribution of the materials. Thank you. Are there any questions by commissioners? Hearing none, Lucas, could you? Well, actually, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Okay, I move that we approve it.
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Doug. Lucas, could you please call the roll?
Yes, Nat Andrew,
Yes,
Richard Brill,
Yes,
Devin Castellano,
Yes.
Doug Johnson,
Yes.
Mason Miller,
Yes.
and Charles Smith.
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Yep.
We have 2 cases this evening to review. Lucas, could you present the first case, AR 17, please?
Sure. And I just wanted to mention, because I think there is at least one person on the call for consent agenda. All the consent agenda items have been approved. So if you're waiting for that approval, that's been done. And the first case is 2021 AR 17 for 1141 Central Avenue. The petitioner is Valley Lodge Tavern, requesting an appearance review certificate to install an overhead door. And George Staffrow is on the call to answer any questions. George, I did mute you just because of some background noise. So if you can just please unmute yourself before speaking.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Great, thanks. So the commissioners received the packet, the case report containing the plans that you submitted. If there's anything else that you wanted to add, now would be your chance. The commissioners will then ask questions.
I'm ready for questions.
Okay.
Okay. George, you don't have a quieter place to go in the restaurant.
I'm sorry?
Well, I guess we'll have to bear with the noise a little bit.
I apologize. Yes, somebody called in and I had to come in. Let me try to find a quieter spot. I apologize. Sorry, guys.
Well, we get a nice tour of the restaurant while George is finding
Yeah.
quieter.
This is window.
Well, we could have an in-person mock-up if you aim the camera correctly here. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, this is helpful. I can see it now.
Right where that couple's is sitting.
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah.
outside.
For the record, George, are you an owner? Are you an employee? Are you the architect? What is your role with Valley Lodge?
I'm one of the partners here at the Valley Lodge.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so let us give our commission an opportunity to ask questions. And Nat, I'd like to start with you, please.
yes. Would you please give us an introduction and explain why are you doing and everything that you think it's worth describing the project?
Sure. So we want to put a door that will go all the way down to the ground in the summertime, we will be able to open it up. I think with what's going on right now, it's kind of the direction that everybody's going. People feel safer when you can open that entry and, you know, with the pandemic and stuff. So just trying to stay ahead of the curve. And we think also it'll look really nice with the new patio that we have here.
So the idea is that you will have it open most of the time?
Every chance we can.
In the spirit of, as you say, the pandemic that we just went through. So it's going to be serving as a ease of access to the restaurant as well as a constant natural circulation, right?
Correct.
Thank
Absolutely. Mhm.
you. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Nada. Devin, would you like to ask George any questions?
Sure. I just had one question. So this is located on the Central Avenue. Is there only going to be one door that's out to the patio, or will there be any on Wilmette Avenue?
That is the only entrance we have is the front door. So that will.
I'm sorry. I meant the garage door, the new garage door. Is there only one?
Yes, just one. Just the
Okay.
one where the table is in front there.
Okay.
Correct. But there's another door on the side that will remain.
Got it.
So there'll
got
be
it.
two entrances.
That was my only question.
Thank you, Devin. Richard, do you have any questions for George? Either Richard is incredibly composed and still, or I think we've lost his connection. So
Oh, shit.
why don't we move on to Mason?
Hi, I just wanted to confirm that the glass will be clear
Yes,
and not frosted.
correct. Yes, it'll be clear.
Okay, that's all I have.
Doug?
Yeah, just a quick question to make sure I understand. The one door that will be the garage door will have the same type of glass, the same type of framing and metal, so it will look virtually the same, but for the fact it will go to the ground.
Correct.
Right, I think George is
Well,
frozen there.
look, it'll be squares.
I'm sorry, you're breaking up. Can we try again?
Okay, I believe the garage door will be squares, individual squares, but you will be able to see through.
It's
not going to be like a large
square,
glass.
Will the framing of the squares be in the same
The framing,
material?
yeah, will be individual squares.
Will it be in the same material as the other windows, which looks like to be anodized aluminum or something?
Yeah, they'll all be black aluminum.
So it'll all look the same, but for the being a garage door,
Correct.
and but for having the squares that are typical of a garage door.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Is Richard back with us or no? Doesn't appear to be the case. Okay, George, I have a question. There's precedent in the village for open windows and an indoor-outdoor space, except as an example at the Old Nick's there and a few others, there were, and even at Sophia's, if I recall correctly, there is a base that is continuous and the windows open, but not the full all the way to the ground. Was that a consideration or not for you? Because you stated that.
Obviously, we want to go all the way down to the ground because we think that's safer. You don't want people stepping over something and being able to trip over it.
Well, right, you certainly don't. I was just listening to your response to Nada saying the primary purpose was to create circulation, air circulation for the space. It's also, if I if I'm jumping ahead, but I believe it's also an indoor-outdoor movement and feel for the restaurant, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so then my next question to Lucas, and I don't know the answer to this, is there anything within the village code or zoning that would prevent a large opening like this beyond a door or double doors that would have any kind of restriction on what Valley Lodge wants to do here?
This has not yet been reviewed by the building inspector, but I did discuss it with our engineering department. And just because of all the construction that's going on, I just wanted to make sure there was no conflict with the new sidewalks that were put in place.
Right.
And that was not a concern by our engineering.
Okay, and this is not a situation that, since it doesn't exist now, when the doors closed in the wintertime or whatever, it will not be an impediment to egress limitations or anything. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so we're not doing this to increase any kind of exiting strategy. It's more of a retail strategy based both on, on aesthetics and movement as well as the positive air circulation. So, okay, I just wanted to double check those couple of items. So given that we do not have, Doug, did you have a question?
Charles, could I ask another question?
Yes.
I just, as you were talking, it made me think of the issues about water, wintertime, and snow. Has this been taken into account? I mean, this could be quite a problem if something were sloped slightly toward the window. So it's just an issue. I think it's probably a building code issue, not an appearance issue, but it does come to mind that there could be water issues.
Was that question for me?
Yes.
So the architect is going to have it sloped so that water will not be able to enter in the bar. He said that the floor will need to be sloped outwards.
Right, but there won't be a channel to keep the door seated so that there can't be leakage from snow melt. It'll just be the fact that it's sloping.
Correct, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be well insulated as well.
Right. I assume that the only reason I ask is because you said it was important to keep it flat and not a tripping issue, which I totally agree with. But if that's the case, I wonder kind of how the barrier is going to work. But again, it's probably a building code issue.
It's also a detailing issue for the bottom of the garage door. Does it have a cushion that seals tightly both for air and water, which I would suspect that the architect would design into the final product. Okay.
Correct.
And are there any other questions for George at this time?
Yes,
Looks like
Charles?
Richard is back.
Okay, yeah, a question. I trust that the door's strength and weather tightness and weatherproofing and all will be sufficient to handle the winters and people will still be able to dine inside and be comfortable?
Of course. That's obviously very important to us. So yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Anything else, Richard?
No, thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, George. Is there a motion to move the garage door as submitted?
I move to approve as submitted, subject to appropriate village approval for the drainage from the door.
Second.
Thank you. Lucas, could you please call?
Yeah, and I just want to check if I don't think there's anyone on the call from the public that has any questions, but if there is, please speak up. But I don't see anyone on our chat, so go ahead and call. Not Andrick?
Are we approving?
Yes.
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 Richard Bro?
Yes.
Devin Castellano,
Yes.
Doug Johnson,
Yes.
Asa Miller,
Yes.
Charles Smith.
Yes. Thank you. Appearance review approved. Good luck, George.
Thank you guys so much.
Okay, can't wait to see your busy sidewalks this summer.
Yeah, me too. That makes two of
Second
us. Yes, yes. We're excited.
All
So
right.
thank you guys very much.
Just out of curiosity, George, what is your construction schedule for to install the door?
I think we were kind of waiting for the approval first, and we need to talk to our contractor and see all those details. I don't know offhand, to be honest with you.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I guess the train's arriving in the Wilmette Station. We could now please, Lucas, present the next case, AR 18.
Yeah, just sorry, I'm getting a message from Jeff. It looks like he's trying to join the meeting. Jeff, are you able to unmute your mic?
Yeah, I'm here, Lucas. I was running late, so apologize.
Oh, okay, great, great, no problem. All right, thank you. So next case, 2021 AR 18 for 1100 Laramie. The petitioner is Loyola Academy. They're requesting an appearance review certificate to revise the building elevations, site plan, paving, screening, and landscaping. And this case was reviewed by the commission last year. Since that time, during just the development of the design, some things were modified in the plans that were submitted for building permit. So that the applicant is coming in seeking an amended approval for those items, and they're spelled out in the case report as well as the applicant's cover letter. Not sure who's going to be kicking off the presentation for the applicant, but they could introduce themselves. That would be great.
Hi, my name is Dennis Stonquist. We've been in front of you before and glad to be back. And thank you everyone for the time tonight. I may not have wind or trains in the background, but I do have 2 kids and 2 dogs. So I just want to put that out there right now. I am grateful to be here, or lucky to be here with Sarah Lundgren, who is from Crook Sexton Partners, who is our lead architect. And we have made a few very small modifications that she will clearly explain to you as to why and why we think they work. We've started construction with our foundation permit, and we have there is now digging in the backyard in the quad section at Loyola Academy, with our plan to be open in the fall of 2023 for the 2022 for the 2022-2023 school year, with a theater and performing arts center that we believe is a key to not only our experience, but the beauty of our campus. It is going to make the quad more usable. We've explained this before, but this is something we need on campus, and we believe will be a bright spot for the Wilmette community with a 550 seat theater. I will turn it over to Sarah Lundgren, who is now a partner at Crook Sexton Partners. Congratulations, Sarah. And she will lead you on the specifics.
Thanks, Dennis. Thank you everyone for having us present today some of the changes. We really appreciate your time. Regarding the questions, these came through in the review of the building permit. And quickly, just to go through these, and then I can show them on a site plan and show you also in some renderings and various images that we've created. There were some changes to the stairs at the terrace level upon entry, both from the quad and from the drop-off. There was a change to the hardscape and an introduction of some aggregate. There was a change to our mechanical plant, which we can show on the plan, and a change to the fencing around it. Some trees were also affected, both at the mechanical plant as part of the site plan items, and then also at the lift station in the front of the property. There were some lighting columns that were removed that you had previously seen in our previous application. And then from an architecture standpoint, the mechanical plant, again, with this fence enclosure, some material changes in some vestibules that can cut into the building, and then a clarification on the glass specification is all part of it, as well as a clarification on one material on the quad side. So to show you all of those things in a site plan, we put this together to make it a little bit more clear, and I can kind of go through each of those. So for those who are not familiar with where the property is, it's at the north end of the campus along Illinois Road. The entry to the Performing Arts Center will be along Illinois Road or up through the parking lots to the west of the campus. And the current east wing right here, which is along I-94, is this dashed area. And the new Performing Arts Center is at the very north end of that east wing. So it kind of rounds out the campus. This parking is all existing to remain. It's getting slightly repaved to create a new accessible drop-off entry here. So one of the first items was a change in the hardscape where we extended the steps that ran along the front. Previously, there was a retaining wall here, and we made the steps return back to the building to create a more gracious entry. And similarly, on the quad side, we did the same thing. We used to have a retaining wall here. We returned the steps to provide for a future and better connection with the quad. The second item, which is 1B on your agenda of items, is the introduction of some aggregate. So I would think about this more like stone fines or cobblestones, pebbles that would be fill-in. It would be hardscape that allows for water to drain through into the soil. There's a sliver at the north side between the sidewalk and the building that you'll see on a rendering in a little bit here. And then this is the chiller plant. It's on the far east side of the property. Puts it directly next to essentially I-94. It is the location for an adiabatic cooler, some transformers, and other small equipment. As we went through our design, development, and construction document phases, this got fine-tuned in terms of the clearances that were required around the equipment, and it took up a little bit more space than what we had previously planned. So the outline has slightly gotten modified, and we lost 2 of 5 trees for a total of 3 trees in this area. That also relates to 4A, which is a fence at this location. You'll see this basically an elevation of this fence. The fence is acoustically designed, so it is a solid cedar fence with an acoustical insulation on the interior face, working together along with the height in order to reduce any noise that's coming off from the equipment. Additionally, if we move to lighting, or actually, I'm sorry, since I talked about the tree here, I'm gonna continue with the landscape. So the other thing was that we introduced a hedge here. There is a lift station right at this location, and we wanted to add some landscape into the existing relatively heavily dense landscaping here in this portion of the property, just to kind of shield that lift station, which shouldn't be visible at all through the fence. You'll see some images of the landscaping. We removed 3 light columns that were placed right here that were previously approved. From an architecture standpoint, there's 3 major things. One is we changed the material that I had mentioned in these alcoves here. This one also here. It used to be a concrete panel system, and we changed it to be concrete masonry units with an exposed aggregate. The second thing was that this is precast panels. You'll see this in one of the renderings. Rather than have that be a rain screen system, we wanted to tie the materiality of the building together so that the mass of the theater house and the fly tower kind of returned again and became the base of the building. So I'll show you that. And then the glass throughout the project has been designed to have a light frit pattern on it. So I'm going to walk you through images of each of these. Here you can see the hedgerow at the lift station and the trees over here at the adiabatic cooler plant. You can also see in this rendering the return of the stairs again on both sides. In terms of the landscaping, the hedge along the lift station on Illinois Road, it will be a dense hedge that will integrate. It'll be a deciduous tree so that it'll turn colors in the fall. The trees on the east side of the adiabatic cooling plant have not changed. This is the same spec we had before, which is ironwood. We just changed the quantity of trees. And then from a lighting standpoint, all of the site lighting is the same. We re-showed this slide so that you could see that that was all maintained. It matches the rest of the parking lots on Loyola's campus, both in terms of height and in terms of fixture. But we took out a couple of those lights here. So this kind of reinforces, in the submittal package, you'll see this reinforces the light levels on campus without them. And specifically in this area of the entry, we're getting plenty of light. Lastly, I wanted to walk you through some of the architectural renderings. So this is a rendering from drop-off. You can see here, if you kind of zoom in, this actually, I actually put in two other more higher resolution ones because we couldn't send Lucas these high resolutions. So you can see here, there's like a little 6-inch pathway kind of trough of this aggregate that we think is a nice touch as a transition from hardscape to building profile along that north edge. And then we also have it on the south edge, but I don't have a good rendering of that. We also have, it's hard to see in this view, but in the next view, you'll be able to see it right here. The Frit pattern is a very light white dot pattern, which I'll show you kind of an abstraction of that in one of the elevations. But really, we want to keep this very open. The whole goal of the front stage is that there's a seamless kind of continuity between the interior of the lobby and the exterior stage. So the Frit for us was a way to really achieve a little bit of a dappled kind of impression on the surface, but also still keep it very, very transparent. We do have two different frits for the glazing. There's a denser frit at the shadow box areas of the slab. This was called out in the permit application as a spandrel panel. I think that was maybe a little bit misleading. This actually is a curtain wall system, but these panels right here that basically allow transparency through to the steel beam beyond, so that you can really see how the building is put together, has a slightly denser frit. So that was what that was calling out in this location here, and then in the head location on the north elevation, which I'll show you right now. So that is on this elevation. So on the north elevation, at the top of the glazing and at the very bottom of the glazing, where you can see through to that structure, the glass acts a little bit more like a veil. So the typical glass has a very light frit on it, and the glass in those locations is slightly more dense. We still want to be able to see through, so you can see that that structure, but we wanted it to be a little bit more veiled. These elevations also show the aggregated block in this vestibule here, and then also on the east side in this vestibule here. And you can see the coordination of the block to the sandblasted concrete that we have as the structural components. And then the last thing is this wooden fence. It's really a horizontal board, solid cedar fence with this insulation panel behind that I mentioned earlier. Let me see here. This is the other drawing. I think this shows all the materials together. And I believe that touches on everything. I don't know if there's any questions or specific about anything else I didn't touch upon in more detail. Oh, actually, now that I'm looking at this, I do see that this is the precast wall panels at the very bottom of the rain screen system, which matches the tower and the theater house, which you actually can't see in this rendering, beyond, and the north side of the building. The other panels here are the rain screen system, the manufactured limestone rain screen system.
Thank you, Sarah. Is that does that cover all of the points? I think it does in your submittal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What I'd like to do is go around to our commissioners and give each an opportunity to ask questions. And Jeff, I'd like to start with you, please, if you could unmute yourself and if you have questions for Sarah or Dennis.
Welcome back again, and it looks really good. I like it. I guess the only question I have is with the introduction of the cedar fence. And I mean, it's such a strong, heavy with the precast, with the aggregates, and then the cedar fence rather than the corrugated or metal or what it previously was, I guess to me feels a little out of place, but maybe a little more conversation about why cedar.
Yeah, I think that we were trying, I'm going to go to that elevation there, trying to, like everything, kind of balance out value and aesthetics. And so for us, the natural cedar is a really nice complement to the rest of the building and provides, with this insulation, a type of system that we can make feel monolithic. There's a door, so we need access to the chiller plant, and the best way for us to kind of detail out the system, with kind of the priorities that we had for the project, was to use wood, where we can really use it as the door panel. It's completely monolithic, and it becomes a nice backdrop to the fence, or I'm sorry, to the trees that are just in front of it. So that was our thought process. I kind of I don't know if you're alluding to the idea of possibly using the same precast panels for like an extension off the building. I think that's an interesting idea. But I think we've been trying to hold these volumes kind of tight. And so I guess we were thinking that it was a nice complement and architecturally cohesive to have the fence be more monolithic, which we could achieve with the wood.
I mean, is there any precedence anywhere else on the campus? I'm just trying to
that wasn't our inspiration.
No, I know. I'm just
yeah.
I don't know. I know it's facing the highway. No one's really going to see it. We're looking at all sides of the building, and this is to me a little. I guess I haven't completely figured it out. So that's my only comment. I mean, with that piece.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Richard, are you on the line, able to ask a question?
I should be unmuted. I trust you can hear me all.
Yes.
I think the presentation and this 124-page packet are very comprehensive, explain things well, and I don't really have any questions beyond this. It seems it's all buttoned down and looks good.
Okay, thank you, Richard. Doug.
Yes, thank you for this package. I have to say, I think the stairs and the changes you've made to the front are beautifully designed. I think they're going to work very, very well. The north elevation brings to mind a question I had before, and I think it answers it, but I want to check, and that's the intensity of the columnar lighting. It looks good in this rendering, but I've kind of had a concern that it could be bright if it's not kind of managed well and take the focus to an odd part of the building. So it's just, there's no way I can evaluate it because I can't really visualize what the actual lighting would be.
Are you commenting on these kind of
Yes.
these gaps in the system?
Yes, because I
Yeah.
like that, but I think
Yeah.
they could be pretty intense if you're not careful.
Mm-hmm. You know what we can do, which I think is a good idea. I don't have an RCP on me right now. These are not going to be specifically lit, so I'll say that it will come from the lighting grid that's happening at the ceiling. You can kind of see it here. It gets a little fuzzy in the rendering, but basically there's a grid of linear lighting that happens, you know, in this plane. They're relatively far back. I can pull up an RCP if you want to look at it, but I would be surprised if it's, you know, if it's this light, and I can talk to our lighting team to see, you know, what the options are for putting the ones on the end if we think that we're going to get too high a lighting on a different circuit. I'm not really sure about that yet, but it's something that we could test.
Well, I think a different circuit's a wonderful solution because then you can modify it.
Yeah.
And I do have to say, I guess I don't object, but I do think the Cedar is kind of odd. So anyway, those are my comments. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Mason.
Hi, welcome back. I'm a big fan of the building, and I like the design a lot. And I'm fine with all the changes, but I will bring up the cedar fence as well. In that I've worked on projects where we've had cedar set horizontally, and for the first few years it looks great, and then over time the rings of the wood start to collect dirt, and it starts to really kind of eat away at the wood, and sort of it's not a great look after a few years. I mean, for the first 5 years it looked great, but did you consider doing it vertically?
Yeah. So when you do it vertically, you always expose the ends, of course. Mm-hmm. And I guess if we were to have like a top angle to the system, we could protect those ends, but we didn't want water coming into the ends of the wood. So that's why we did it horizontally. Do you think that vertically would help with what you're kind of referring to?
I think so. I did a house a few years ago where we had some horizontal and then some vertical, and the vertical holds up really well. Mm-hmm. For some reason, the horizontal, when it rains, it sort of collects dirt, and it sort of over time it sort of eats away. I mean, I don't know what are you doing any kind of treatment, or are you just going to let it go gray?
We were planning on letting it go gray, but I'm open-minded. I think our goal is mostly that it remains, you know, monolithic as a shell. And I've seen it both ways. I think letting it go gray with the building would be very, very beautiful. And everything that we're doing is trying to minimize maintenance for the Loyola staff. And so whenever you let things go kind of natural, it helps in that regard. And, you know, I think our office feels like it, you know, a beautiful texture and a beautiful color. But I do think that your comment about rotating the boards is interesting, and it's something that we could look at for sure.
Okay. I mean, yeah, everything else looks great. It's a great project.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mason. Devin.
Hello. I concur with everyone else. I'm excited to see this project progress. The only question I had with the Frit glass that is specified, will that deter birds? I mean, there is quite a bit of trees surrounding that curtain wall system. I wasn't sure if that was something that you had looked at.
Yeah. So there's tree, as you can see in that image that we were just looking at. There's trees in front of the plaza, and then you can see them right here too. The Frit is expected that it would help with trees. With birds. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything scientific about it, but there's an anticipation that it would help with birds.
Great. That was my only comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nada.
Thank you. Welcoming you back, and thank you again for the further improving the project. I have several questions. Could you walk me or walk all of us through all of the finishes on the building? You have several concretes, right?
Yeah. Yeah. There's three different types of concrete. If you thought of concrete in the broadest picture. Should
Should we look at the elevation? I'm sorry, or
Sure. Yeah.
what would be most best explanatory?
Which elevation would you like to look at?
Whichever you think will describe all of the finishes.
Okay, so let's start here. So there are 4 volumes here that you can see. This is the back of house, the fly tower, the theater house, and the north stair. Those are all precast concrete. And that precast concrete basically looks like this. It looks very similar to the limestone on campus. It's sandblasted, so it has this very soft kind of subtlety to it. And that's also, in addition to those volumes, and you can see the fly tower volume here, it's these bottom panels right here along the quad. Within that, and I'm going to show you in plan for a second while we're going through that, basically wrapping from the north side all the way over to the east wing here, if you can see my hand, is a rain screen system that is, it's ultra high performance concrete is the type. It's fabricated to look like limestone, and we've been working on samples to get it to extend kind of the vocabulary of the precast. You can see here that there's a slight difference by using 2 different textures on these panels. One is more like a bead blast, and one is more smooth. And then they have a couple of different runs. So we'll get this subtle variety of texture on the rain screen. And this literally is functioning like a rain screen. It's a very lightweight system that has a metal edging to match the materiality. In each of those alcoves, so there's one alcove here. This is an exiting alcove from the crossover behind the fly tower. And then there's another alcove on the east side, which is an exiting alcove from the back of house area and the mechanical rooms. Inside those is a block, an aggregate block, that's slightly darker than the precast, but also will be in shadow because they're basically cut into the building. So those are the 3 types of precast that we have, or the 3 types of concrete that we have on the building.
So this elevation shows a system of joints that you have. What is the size of the precast panel?
The precast panels are approximately they're between 9 and 10 feet generally. The fly tower, all I can say is they're generally between 9 and 10 feet. These panels coordinate on the grid. I think these are 9'6", and I think these are 9'6", and I think these are 9'3". They're slightly smaller to get equal size panels on the smaller volume.
And how are you doing the joint in between? What's the size of the joint?
So the joint is 3/4 inches wide and a raked joint. We want to express the panel. Yep.
And how are you doing a butt joint vertically?
So there's only, all of these are full height panels except for this one joint in the fly tower. And this one will also be raked. We're trying to express this line throughout the building. It kind of comes and goes, but they will all be raked.
So do you think that there will be enough legibility in the rake joint, similar to what drawing shows?
Yeah, I hope so. We have some ability to express that a little bit more through the color of the caulk. I think that we do have a mock-up that's planned where we can look at the joint sizes, but these are huge panels. So it's it's our intent to have the panels read so that the masses have some kind of pedestrian scaled legibility to them.
Would you also tell us how do you do corner panels?
So yeah, that's a great question. So the corner, let me see if I can, this might be the best example. So we didn't want, we took a lot of care in trying to make sure that it didn't look like, you know, just any other precast building. And so precast naturally for, you know, an R value of higher than, let's say 20 or 25, is a 12-inch thick precast panel. And what we wanted to do was express it as a thicker panel. So every corner that we have returns, and it has a 24-inch leg on it. And that's what you're seeing here. So we have a, you know, 9'6" wide panels, but the corner panels are 9'6" wide by 24 inches deep. And that's an L-shaped panel so that we can get this series of thicker panel kind of volume reading as you see the building march back. And that joint is the exact location where in plan, this is going to be hard to see, but actually, well, in plan, we have the step back condition where we, you know, we recess another panel so that you really get the reading of, you know, these 4 distinct volumes. That's exactly at the location where that joint happens, that the panel recesses back.
And that corner is a 90-degree corner. The two surfaces meet under 90 degrees.
Yes.
Is it slightly rounded, or is it how you solving the sharp corner edge?
Yeah, that's a great question. Of course, at all of our joints, we have miters. I haven't looked at we just literally got the precast shop drawings. I haven't looked at that detail yet. And I can't answer that, unfortunately.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Back to the Cedar panel in the back.
Mm-hmm.
So it's done out of how big panel sizes or
4-inch
board sizes?
Well, 4 inches high. Is that what?
Only 4 inches. I see.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And they are butt?
Yeah, they're tongue and groove in order to account for the acoustical requirements.
And how are you lining? What is the corner of that railing, the entire panel?
Right here,
and
what's that corner?
Yeah, and how are you hiding the acoustical treatment?
So the acoustical treatment is pinned onto the back. It's like a quilted acoustic insulation that's pinned onto the backside, and it fits between. There's 4-inch galvanized steel tubes that are basically supporting this entire system. And so that quilted insulation basically fits between the tube and the cedar. The corner is going to be kind of a lap joint, you know, so it looks like it's interlocking. You'll see the end on one side, and then you'll see the face and the end in the face. Can't see that in this detail.
So looking from the side into the entire panel, what's the thickness that you experience?
It's 1 inch.
1 inch?
Yes.
What is holding it?
They're mechanically fastened to a frame that connects it back to the galvanized steel post.
And that's exposed frame, right?
Yeah, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, the frame is exposed on the top. So if we were to run this vertically, which I'm not against at all, we could protect those ends. To the other gentleman's comment.
Mm-hmm.
I do have that detail. If you want me to pull it up.
Sure.
Yeah, Sarah, let me know where you want me to scroll.
Yeah, that's fine. You know what? Maybe if you go to the plan detail, yeah, let's go there for a second just to answer Nada's question. So, so do you see these angles on the interior? right there. Shoot, I can't point. Yeah, those right there.
Nice.
Yeah, so the idea was that those angles would be offset. We don't really want the wood touching the galvanized frame, so the angles are to the system. I thought that there was a frame that ran around the top, but now that I'm looking at the section detail, I see that there isn't. So if that were a requirement, we would have to work through that. But really, the goal is to, as I said before, to have it read monolithic. The fasteners are exposed, and you know, just a very, very simple gray textured fence that is, you know, it's going to be relatively, it's going to be the height of the adiabatic cooler so that it can work acoustically.
I see that it is 11 feet tall.
Yes. And that's the height of the cooler.
So I'm just thinking of that, and the entire structure, the construction, and assembly that you made, which is I almost think it is more an interior scale than outside, and I feel it's a little bit too thin and sort of a without much substance. Not that we are looking for substance, but I am just thinking even about the elements, about the snow and the rain and ice and all of that, and how is that going to behave in, you know, in the forthcoming time. So anyway, these are just a few comments regarding that. I have one more question. If you would go back to the plan of the ground floor, please. So I was thinking that this is a beautiful entry that you created, very gracious, and what you have done with the stairs, sort of being omnidirectional, so to say, is wonderful. But I do have a small issue or question on what side would that be on the bottom of the drawing?
Here, south?
Yeah. What is the width of the circulation between the stair and the wall?
Between this, you mean right here, the sidewalk, or right here?
Stair, right.
Right there. What's that? What's that dimension? That dimension is, let me see here.
It's the size of.
Yeah, I think it's 5 feet. So that's our module, but I'm going to have to double check.
I was just wondering, you know, I honestly don't know what would be the solution, the right solution, because I think wrapping around with the stair and inviting the people to come up is great, but I feel that that might be a little misleading.
Yeah.
Up this many risers and find out that you are hitting the wall.
Yeah.
There's no room for circulation, but if it is 5 feet, you can actually have 2 people walking. Maybe one next to the other, but I think it's a little bit sensitive kind of circulation.
100% it's sensitive. I completely agree with you. And in fact, this is where our landscape designers had started. Then we had your exact sentiments, which is why we had a retaining wall here. And then we actually returned to this because we were thinking of the future when, you know, the big idea is that we kind of have this second stage that connects the existing buildings together. And we kept coming back to this idea of having almost more like an amphitheater where you have kids on both sides of a performance. And so we're thinking of this more as seating area than we are as steps. And we feel like it's a really critical part of that center performance, which would ultimately happen here.
You know, I actually would refrain for suggesting to any architect what to do with their projects, but you may even start doing that right now and actually block it off and create a seating that is in the same continuation. I don't know, what's the riser height?
It's a standard riser height. It's 6 inches.
6 inches.
Mm-hmm. And so, sorry, what are you suggesting?
No, I was saying maybe you can even recognize right or something that turns it into the beginning of your amphitheater seating, of amphitheater seating. Anyway, that's a minor point, but thank you very much for all the explanation.
No, thank you very much.
Wonderful.
I believe, thank you, Nada, thank you, Sarah. I believe we've had a platform for all the commissioners. I do have a few questions myself, and I will, first of all, thank you. You're getting these questions because we don't usually have the treat of having a beautiful piece of architecture come before this committee very often. So we have a lot to dig into and a lot to analyze and appreciate. I will say, though, I am with my fellow commissioners in critiquing the Cedar enclosure. I believe Mason is correct in saying it's going to look good for the first 5 years, and even if you go vertically, I would question that after that period of time. And it seems to me that it's picking up on Nada's comments, it seems to me to be somewhat of a finicky design where you could, in lieu of insulation and a frame and the cedar, you could have a representative precast concrete panel that would achieve the acoustical properties that you have set out to go for there, and it would be, frankly, I believe, in keeping with the building a little bit better. That's that's certainly up to you, but I think that's the one part of the scheme that is a stretch, and everything else is incredibly well composed. I question Sarah, have you worked hard with your engineers to ensure that there will be no mechanical equipment visible on the rooftops?
Yes, that is the last thing I want. I guarantee you that. I don't have the second floor plan on here, but basically, I'm going to draw a rectangle here just for your knowledge. There's a mechanical well that happens from this wall to this wall. All of our mechanical equipment is up here. It's directly over this back of house area, and this volume and this volume are significantly higher. I think the height is 13 feet from this roof deck up to the top of the parapet wall that forms this volume. And we do that for acoustical purposes. We need to have these walls be as high as our air handling units up there. And they are, it works. We have no doubt that this is
Okay.
going to be a great.
Right. And I remember that well. I was frankly even more concerned on the other flat roofs, and just ensuring that there's no goosenecks, there's no soil set, there's no stacks, there's nothing that will kind of penetrate the beautiful horizontal lines of the boxes and the forms. So I know you share that concern. It's just a triple check by as Nada said, an outside architect.
Yeah, there are roof hatches that are required at the fly tower, and there are obviously storm drains on all of the roofs, but that's the extent of it.
Okay.
So yeah, nothing.
Very good. You removed on 3A, you removed 3 lighting standards or poles. Could you go into that a little bit more? What the thought is behind that and why the reversal? So
yeah, they were more of a lighting design kind of element that was an idea of landscape design element that was an idea of extending these trees up toward the entry. And Loyola has been very specific about their goals to have universal accessibility on campus. And we felt like it was a bit of an impediment as we ended up placing our accessibility ramp here as the connection to the handicap spaces, which are over here. So we knew that we didn't need them. And we really like the idea that the building had created the light was really coming from the terrace out at the front, and we felt like this wasn't really helping at all, so we took it out.
Okay. No, I do like the decluttering of the site, so that makes sense. I just wanted to ensure that there's not a drop off, because other than right next to the building, that's the second most area on the site that you would need lighting.
Yes, and we are getting, we have completed these, these studies. You can see that there's enough lighting at the entry.
Okay. And then my last topic I'd like to address, picking up, and Devin already touched on this, it is the bird friendliness of the glazing. And I don't recall in our first meeting how important that was, but it's become extremely important for us in the village, to the point where we have developments going on that we've really pushed hard on that issue. And and part of the reason is that bird glass specifically is meant to be in place up to 36 feet from the ground, because that's what birds are looking for. They see a lighted source, and then they as if they're going down to the quad or to the ground, they will fly into those lighted sources. So I think it's almost imperative that we know that the frit that you're planning to use does have bird repellent qualities to it, as a specifically designed bird friendly glass would. Without that type of frit, I understand, but I think it's really important for the village to understand that.
And so when you say without that, can you explain your request one more time so I really understand it?
There are specific bird friendly glasses, and some of them have frits in them that you don't even see to the human eye, but that birds can see. And there's a certain dimension, 2 by 4 inch dimension, that the birds will not fly through.
Yep.
And what I'm asking is, and I don't know what is the frit on this glass serving a purpose that we can very confidently say will fulfill that same purpose? Is it dark enough? Is it translucent enough, etc.? And I think that's something I'd hate to have a project like this be so elegant, and then, a couple of years, we get a dozen birds per quarter or something that we have to, I know Loyola doesn't want to deal with that. So just a more of a double check. And how can you be sure, or have you checked that out yet?
Okay, yeah. So I think there's 2 frits here. So one thing that I'm hearing you say is, if you're adding a frit to vision glass, let's make sure that it coordinates with bird friendly kind of requirements. Is that correct?
Well, I know, yes, it is correct. I realize there's a frit pattern on the translucent areas, and there's a frit pattern on the spandrel areas. I get that. You were very clear about that.
Okay. Okay.
What I'm trying to understand is that frit translucent or opaque enough to serve the purpose of a bird repellent, or is it so light and subtle that it's not going to serve that purpose? And I don't know the answer.
It's a ceramic frit, so I don't actually, it's not a percentage.
It's opaque.
It's not a percentage opaque. We haven't specified a percentage opaque. We've just specified a ceramic frit with a color. And yeah, so I don't really know. It's not a, let me clarify by saying it is a ceramic frit. It's not a percentage, like a 50%, I forget what they call it, screen of ceramic frit. It's not an etch process. It's a frit. I don't have any documentation on it being bird friendly. So I don't want to come out in this meeting saying that it is.
I understand that. I guess I would make a strong recommendation that you look at that and research it, and just for yourself and Loyola to because it is something that's important to the village. And we've had in these meetings in the past, we've had residents come forward asking that specific question. And it's not very often we have a project come before us with this height of glass or this amount. Even if it's under a canopy like you have here, it's still a beacon in some ways.
Yeah, no, I totally understand it. I mean, we've talked about it. We just haven't we haven't like proven the case, to your point.
Okay, I have no further questions or comments. I'd ask Lucas and Karen if there are any public members attending that have a question for Sarah or Dennis.
I do not see any comments on YouTube chat and no comments on Teams chat.
Okay. Well, you know, I think commissioners, any other questions or follow-up comments after the dialogue ensued after your initial questions?
I just one follow-up on the small thing that's become large, the cedar fence. As I listen, it sounds like the real problem is it doesn't look like it belongs to the building. And some material that is more consistent with the design, and I'm not sure what it is perhaps what people are reacting to. It looks like it's, and it might look, if it gets a little weathered, like it was tacked on.
Yeah, and I think our goal was.
I mean, I started, and I guess I know it's such a beautiful building, and then to have someone say, well, it looks like the strip mall wood enclosure on the back of it, and that's how, I mean, it's, to me, it's sort of like that. Like, but I mean, you guys spent so much money in other places with the tall glass, with the huge panels, with everything else, and to me, just the cedar fence is just not friends. I mean, but I'll make a motion to approve it as is. But it's just, that's my feelings.
We can make motions that you know, have revisions to them, or we can make motions and we have the ability to either endorse or not. So I think that's a choice of everybody, obviously.
I mean, is this holding you guys up with mock-ups, or are you need the approval right now, or is there any opportunity to come back one more time, or schedule-wise, is this going to affect you?
Jeff, it's Dennis Stonquist from Loyola Academy. I do have to say, the summer at a school construction calendar is crucial. It is. So I do worry about us coming back and delaying any sort of permit or any of the process. I don't know what the specifics would be and how that would change our calendar. What I do know is that our calendar is pretty set about when kids get out of school and when they come back and what needs to be achieved in that time.
But correct me, Lucas, if I'm not, this building is already permitted, correct?
So that's a good question. So the foundation permit has been issued. There are some other things that are not ready for the building permit. Some of these zoning comments, as well as the height of this proposed fence is also something that's being reviewed by the zoning board. So the zoning board are going to be reviewing this case. I think next week.
The 12th.
The 12th.
The 12th.
Yeah. So they'll be reviewing this case, and then that will need to go to the village board, which I believe
June 8th. Right? June 8th.
Yeah.
Not that I know the schedule or anything.
Right. Yeah, because it's not going to make it for the second meeting in May. So yeah, so it would be June 8th is when the village board would ultimately get it for approval. We have told the applicant that we would be willing to issue a building permit with conditions if the if there were just issues on maybe the material or, depending on what the conditions are, we would be willing to still issue the building permit if there were some minor issues still about the fence. So I think that's something that we would be still willing to be able to issue a permit for the rest of the building, which would get them started on the rest of the building. I think probably from my perspective, if the commission is okay with the overall pad, the size of the pad, I think that's going to be impacting the building permit more than the material of the screening. So as long as the commission is okay with the size of the pad, I'm confident that we would be able to issue a permit if the only remaining item were the material of the screen.
Well, I think there's a couple of options then. One obviously is to make a motion to approve as is, and that moves the project completely off the docket. Another is to make a motion that approves all of the items with the exception of whatever somebody chooses to exclude from the approval. Or the other one is to, our review is not precedent to a permit approval, correct, Lucas?
Yeah, the only thing that would be necessary for the commission to approve tonight would be the changes to the site plan and architectural. In order to get the building permit issued, we wouldn't necessarily take issue with the material of the screen.
So, Charles, would a motion to approve subject to the footprint being approved, and perhaps if they return to the louvered metal, that would be approved, or otherwise be able to come back with a different material that's more consistent with the building? But I agree. I think the footprint, if it's approved and the entire project is approved, I certainly wouldn't want to hold this up.
Yeah, I think that's a viable option. For me personally, I'm going to need to have assurance about the glass being bird friendly, but that doesn't mean everyone else has to have that.
Well, we can add that then, subject to the bird. My motion subject to verifying that it's bird friendly glass.
Sure, that would be something I could get behind.
Say I so move that confusing motion.
Why don't we articulate it a little bit more?
Okay, I would move to approve the supplemental plans as submitted, including the footprint of the mechanical area, and subject to being later reviewing the materials, unless to the extent that the original material of metal louvers was included, plus the condition that it be verified that the glass is bird friendly.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second.
Thank you. Lucas, could you call the roll, please?
Sure. Nada Andrick?
So are we moving to for approval on the project?
Yes.
Yes, with the conditions that Doug just outlined, Nada.
That's fine. Okay, yes.
Richard Brill?
Yes.
Devin Castellano?
Yes.
Doug Johnson?
Yes.
Asa Miller?
Yes.
Jeffrey Saad?
Yes.
And Charles Smith?
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much to Dennis and to Sarah. Appreciate your representation of the project this evening. I would like to ask, and I don't believe there's any public members attending the meeting, but we should formally ask if there's any other comments or subjects that the public would like to bring up.
You know, one thing, Charles, that I would recommend, just because they're potentially the commission could be discussing this at the meeting next month, is that the commission move to continue the remaining items of this case to the next meeting.
So
Yeah.
moved.
The second.
Second?
Nada Hendrick,
Yes.
Richard Bell,
Yes.
Devin Castellano,
Yes.
Doug Johnson,
Yes.
Mason Miller,
Yes.
Jeffrey Saad,
Yes.
and Charles Smith.
Yes. Motion carries. Okay, thank you, everybody. I think that's a lot of good comment and investment in what was presented to us this evening. I'll ask the commission if there's any other business.
Just the next month's meeting. I don't know if we're going to schedule that.
We should confirm that. Yes.
Just FYI, if it is on the 7th, I will be in the air.
Okay.
Well, I know a good thing that Air Force One has a great connectivity, Doug.
Yeah, and I'm going to steal the ashtrays.
Yeah, there will be a meeting scheduled for June 7th.
Okay, so our option is to keep it on the 7th if everyone else can make it, or move it to Flag Day, which is the following Monday, which is a holiday that many of you probably have all kinds of festivities planned for, and you may have conflicts for that day as well.
Either one works for me.
Does anyone else have a conflict on the 7th? Okay. Hearing that only one of our members cannot make it, I think we should keep it as scheduled. And with due respect to Doug, we'll miss his voice, but we ideally keep our meetings as the public knows the cadence of them.
Right.
Okay. Thank you for bringing that up, Doug. Hearing no other business or topics or anything else, Lucas?
I'm sorry, Charles. I just want to add that brings us to July, which our July meeting falls on the 5th. So it's generally a day where most people are not working. Village Hall is actually closed. So that would be an issue for the 5th. So that would be a question if we want to reschedule that meeting. I don't yet have any applicants for that meeting, but I imagine in the next couple of weeks, I will have people asking to get on the July agenda. So if there's any preference amongst the commissioners, you can just, I mean, we don't have to talk about it now. We can, you can, I can talk to Charles after the meeting, or we can.
Well, we're all here now.
Sure.
I would ask if is there a desire to move it? I do think that week of the 4th, either the one before or after, does catch a lot of people and families on different agendas. I wonder if the 12th is something that people could make.
That works.
July 12th.
The 12th works for me.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, why don't we move the July meeting to the 2nd Monday then?
Okay, sounds good.
An email just letting everyone know, and that way it's on their, they can check their calendar, and if there's an issue, just let me know.
All right, thank you.
Lucas, is there any guidance as to for how long these meetings will remain remote versus in person?
I wish I knew. I really don't have any answer. We were talking a little bit before the meeting started just about public meetings, and the village board is actually going to be potentially trying to have an outdoor meeting at their next meeting, but that would be sort of first of its kind we'll see how that works. But I don't think outdoor meetings will necessarily be the new thing going forward. I think it's just really just for that village board meeting, because it is the meeting where the old board that's our last meeting, and the new board is being introduced. So, and I did just hear from Karen that the 12th is the park board meeting. So, and I don't know the exact time of the park board meeting. So it might be that on the 12th, it might have to be at a different time of day. I can.
Why don't you confirm that? Is it a policy that the village cannot have two public meetings concurrently?
That is the policy.
Okay, fair enough. If you could look into the time, if we need to move this meeting up an hour and a half, an hour, 2 hours, then let's try and be flexible for that date.
Yeah, I think the issue is both meetings are going to be live.
Right.
And broadcast live. So
I for one would not want to miss a public appearance being broadcast live on TV, like I think many of you. So, I think we need to make sure that we don't overlap.
Yeah. Okay. Looks like maybe if we have it at like 5 o'clock, that might be okay. I think it looks like the park board's meeting is at 7:30.
So shall we do that tentatively?
Yes.
5 o'clock. Yeah, let's just say 5 o'clock.
Lucas, can
Yes.
you anticipate the load that's coming our way in the next two meetings?
I don't know what the agenda is going to look like for July. For June, I know. Let's see. And I don't know off the top of my. I know there are some cases. June. I'm sorry, for June. Let me see. Nothing big at this point. Just some sign cases and minor exterior stuff.
So we could be more flexible, I'm assuming.
Okay, so Lucas, what time are we talking about for the July 12th?
5 o'clock.
Okay,
And that's so we don't conflict with the park board's meeting, which is that's our regular meeting date and time.
okay.
Okay.
But I'll send an email out to everyone after the meeting.
Okay. Thank you very much. Is there a motion to adjourn our meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, everyone. Nice to see you all smiling, and thanks very much for your comments.